the development here in the Miracle Mile over those particularly the last 10 to 15 years has been a little inverse to what happened in Hollywood. We have significant residential structures that have been built on Wilshire Boulevard in the Miracle Mile. There's two large projects and a third one which is under construction. We had office buildings and continue to have buildings that were acquired, such as your building, fairly recently, clearly with the knowledge that this was a transit corridor and that it, ultimately that subway will be here. And I think all of us can acknowledge it's really coming a lot closer to a reality. Somebody's getting the shovel ready, at least to La Cienega, and that's where we got to start. But I think that the Miracle Mile already evidences what transportation can do. I mean, these apartments were built, and a lot of people in the community really felt they're just not going to be able to rent them, particularly with the downturn in the economy. And that hasn't been the case. Those apartments on Wilshire are almost full. And a lot of the people that live in the apartments take public transportation to work downtown. I know a lot of the larger law firms specifically were suggesting to the younger lawyers and other employees to take a look at housing in the Miracle Mile because it gave them a great centrality, but transportation, was available to them. And I live about a half a block from Crenshaw and Wilshire, so I can get up here and easily say, I take public transportation. And I do, but it's real easy for me. But that's true of all of us who live anywhere near Wilshire Boulevard. Public transportation isn't that difficult to take. I have a couple local pet peeves. I'm just curious, is there anybody here from the Los Angeles Department of Transportation? Take that as there's nobody here from the Los Angeles Department of Transportation. Okay, do we still, Ben, are you still here or did you leave? Okay,
I have a board member who used to work for them, but we don't have, he's not here present.
Yeah. Well, we really need DOT's involvement in this conversation because one of the problems that you're going to have, and Miracle Mile is a perfect example of it. If I get off the Fairfax station, wherever that will be, somewhere at Fairfax and Wilshire, I get off, I still need to get around. And we need, for instance, dash buses. And I understand funding issues, but I got to tell you folks, I go downtown, I go to different areas, East Hollywood, I see dash buses. They do exist. We're not getting them. And I don't think it's because of a lack of our representation, because I know Koretz, Labange, their predecessors worked pretty hard. But we need to make our own voices known, because if transportation on Wilshire Boulevard is really going to really work, because I see some of the number predictions, and I think they're silly on the low side. But in order to really make it work in this neighborhood, where we have the housing, we have the commercial development, we still need LADOT. LADOT, for any of you that aren't familiar with that, handles dash buses, handles transportation issues, which I do not understand. You folks probably understand. Jeff, I know, understands DOT far better than I do. But I'm making this a big issue because you folks are leaders. And I really am, I'm a rider. I work in this building, I live, not too far down, long enough I won't walk home. My wife will walk, I won't walk, not that far. But we need DOT's involvement, and when I don't see them here for such a highly publicized event, it makes me uncomfortable, because the subway will work, but it won't work to its fullest, to our fullest benefit, without DOT's involvement, without DOT sitting down with the people in this room and our elected officials and saying, you need to make it work. I think it was Councilman Labange mentioned a crosswalk that got taken out. I mean, it was crazy, it was just gone. And everything that made sense about where the museum was, where people were walking from, and the neighbors, and I'm not criticizing the neighbors, but the neighbors thought it was Lockman's fault and said, well, you have to pay to fix it. And if you don't, Wayne Rakovich is going to have to pay to fix it. And that shouldn't be. I think you guys did help pay to fix it.
I'm not going to comment.
Okay. You're not they certainly really stood up with the community to make sure that it got put back. That's a fair statement.
That's true.
And again, I'm sorry for making such a big deal about that, but it's really important and they're not at the table. See, I mean, in my notes, I go back to DOT. Another thing, some of this is just for suggestions for anybody that's here from, MT Metro as well. There is no MTA, right? And there's no RTD, I know that. But I'm throwing these out because I'm discussing transportation in a very local discussion, if you will. You get off the express bus. I get on the express bus at Crenshaw. I get off at Fairfax because I need to take a local. I have to pay again. Now, soon I won't. Another year I don't think I'll have to pay, or not very much. But I will tell you that, and I've heard this repeatedly, it discourages ridership when the express bus on Wilshire is a really convenient tool for east-west traffic, really convenient. But when you have to pay again to continue in exactly the same direction, I know people that won't do it. They just go, somehow, I mean, it sounds silly or colloquial, but it's a turnoff. We need to address that. I mean, I think the problem with public transportation in Los Angeles, which is changing, there's been a stigma for a long time in Los Angeles about riding a bus. Well, I'm not going to take the bus. I'm not going to take the bus. I've sat on a bus stop dressed, maybe not the best, but dressed in a suit and tie, and had the bus pass me by. Where I was sitting on the bus bench. And this looks really stupid, a guy in a suit going like that. But we need to get people onto the buses. And we need to make that a smoother, easier thing to use than it currently is. Yes?
Oh, I'm not defending LADOT, but there is a Fairfax Dash that circulates from...
Once in a while.
Oh, but it has been cut back so much. I mean, we do have a dash system, but it was cut more than in half. And it used to be that you could go across the street here or at the museum and get a dash bus every 15 minutes, I think between like 11:30 and 2 or 1:30. And you had people moving back and forth between the Grove, the Farmers Market, all the businesses on 3rd Street, the smaller retail businesses, which we don't have here on Wilshire. And they cut that back considerably, to the extent that the more cuts that are made, the people just won't rely on them at all. But in a positive way, it's something that we can fix. It's definitely fixable, and I hope we see that. In terms of the Miracle Mile, again, I think, in listening especially to what Adam had to say, old Mr. Ross had this concept, and everybody said he was crazy, that he would build these buildings on Wilshire Boulevard, and he built a lot of them in a 3-year period. But people did come, and people are coming back to the Miracle Mile. They have been for the past 10 years. With the subway, it's going to increase more. There's going to be more development on the Miracle Mile. My guess is there's going to be a lot of development immediately west of Fairfax. The Hotel Wilshire was an adaptive reuse, just a really great project that took a building that was probably not too nice when it was built, and certainly had fallen on harder times. Things are going on, and they're going to continue. I think our residential community needs to acknowledge that too. And that's an ongoing issue. I mean, this is a great residential community, but it's 1 block from Wilshire Boulevard. And Wilshire Boulevard ultimately is the linear downtown. So folks like Ken and me and Adam have to figure out ways to work together. And these two gentlemen really represent a collaborative effort over issues affecting diversity, transportation, density, and made it work. And those are the kinds of partnerships we need to see, and we're glad they're here in the Miracle Mile. Thank you.
Thank you.